Maker of deals, creator of a fantastic company called Loring Woodruff Real Estate that I currently have my house here in Charlottesville listed with her agency. So thank you, Loring.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, and she's also an inspiration for women in business everywhere and men because of what she's created is just phenomenal. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're also going to talk about Loring's history. She grew up on a farm here in Virginia, in Central Virginia. She went to UVA, graduated from UVA, then moved to New York and followed her passion, which she thought for a minute was investment banking, and then went into fashion. So we're going to touch on a lot of crazy things. High fashion, investment banking, aggressive emails, you name it. No details left on the table today, the juicy details. You excited?
I'm excited. I'm excited.
So in a minute here, right now, we do this little conversation. People are coming to join us, hopefully, in the live stream. So that's when we kind of do this. And then in a minute, the cameras are going to go live, and we're going to go quiet, and I'm going to reintroduce the show again, kind of the history, the juicy details, and introduce you. And then, you're going to take it and lead it.
Well, you're going to ask me questions, though.
I know. Exactly.
Okay.
I'm excited. You're in ready.
Quiet on the set.
Hey friends, I'm Hillary Murray. Welcome to the 10th episode of the Juicy Details. Today I'm really excited to have my friend and an inspiring women leader, Loring Woodruff, join us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, Loring is founder of Loring Woodruff Real Estate here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Currently I have my house listed with her agency, so thank you, Loring.
Thank you.
So
Lori.
To start, we always begin the Juicy Details podcast with a shot of some sort. We've done Devil's Backbone Smashes. We've also done Lumi Juice is mainly what we start with.
All
So
right.
this is Lumi's Gold Rush. There's turmeric, lemon, ginger, pear, cayenne, and it's an instant energy infusion.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Whew.
Is it good?
Holy heat.
Holy heat. I like that.
Delicious.
You have the orange juice to maybe counteract the spice if you need it. Well, Loring, thanks for joining us today.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, I want to learn everything about you. So,
Oh boy.
yeah, let's start at the very beginning. Tell us about Somerset, Virginia, which is Orange County, Virginia. It's about, an hour, not even?
30 minutes. from
30
Charlottesville.
minutes north of Charlottesville. And that's where you were born and raised?
Born and raised, as was my father and his father, on the same farm. It was a working cattle and corn farm. No frills, but it really brought me really, really close to nature. I got home from school and I went and got on my horse and took long rides every day with the dog in pursuit. And in a lot of ways, I wish I could recreate that childhood for my kids, but it's not going to happen with TikTok. But it was a good childhood.
So TikTok is stopping you from doing this.
TikTok.
That'd be good content.
TikTok and my inability to curb my children's appetite for social media and what are these called? Cell phones?
So those things we use our hands with. Pagers, beepers, Blackberries.
Yeah. But my daughter does ride, so she gets outside a little bit. But it's a very different time now. So for better and for worse.
So is the farm still working corn and cattle farm?
Yeah, so my father is 86 years old, and he's obviously retired, but he's leased out the farm. And I still go out and visit him and take walks on the farm every weekend. And, it's a special place. It's still very rural out there. And my girls like to take walks out there, too, so it's nice.
And you make him a grilled chicken, right?
Oh, yes, I do. I cook my father a roast chicken once a week, and we sit down and have a meal, and then he keeps the leftovers to survive the week with.
What's your secret to your roast chicken?
Small chicken, 400 degrees, until there's no blood.
And And no sauce or anything? No.
I use truffle salt, lots of truffle salt.
Truffle salt. Okay,
Yes.
so truffle salt roasted at 400 degrees.
That's
until
it.
There's no more blood. That's like a really easy recipe. I think hopefully all of us can do that.
Yes.
That's great. And so it was from the farm, you came to Virginia, UVA, and what did you study at University of Virginia?
I studied art history with a minor in history, so not terribly diverse, but I enjoyed it. But then I wanted to live in New York City. And so I was in a little bit of a conundrum. I wanted to be able to live in New York City, and I was not going to be able to borrow any money from my parents, and I needed to get a job, and I wanted to get a job where I made decent money. So I had very good grades, and I was very determined, and my fourth year, I decided, despite my art history background, that I was going to raid the School of Commerce, where students were being interviewed by big investment banks in New York, and of course they had won the right to have these interviews. And I put on a suit, and I would wait until the door opened and one interviewee left, and I literally would stick my foot through the door and say, "Hi, do you have a minute to talk? I don't have a scheduled interview with you, but I think I have something important to say. You might want to consider me." And I just sort of, and every single person I did this with let me in the door. And I sat down and I said, "Look, I have my background is totally in liberal arts. I've never taken finance. However, I'm extremely driven. I have great grades. I'm a workaholic, and I really think it's good to think out of the box." And my cheesy line, which worked, was, "The greater the risk, the greater the potential payoff." And I got 4 interviews in New York at 4 different banks, and then I ended up just one offer from a bank called Donaldson, Lufkin, and Jenrette. But I was super excited. Off to New York I went, not knowing what in the world a financial model was. But it was a good experience. I failed miserably. I was a terrible, terrible investment banker.
What was like your hardest, like, so, what was your hardest thing that you failed miserably? How long were you even there? Like 6 months, a year, 2 years? Like, kind of talk to us about what was the first thing where you were like, holy guacamole, I'm like SOL here. I have no idea what I'm doing.
So it was a 2-year program, or that was to be the commitment. And I was with a class of 30 other analysts, all of whom had finance degrees or double finance econ majors. And the tire hit the road when I was assigned my first deal to do a financial model on, and I didn't have a clue how to do anything. I leaned heavily on my senior associate, but none of the numbers made sense. It was completely intangible to me. I could not, I got good grades in math, but I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to do this modeling, build models, projection models, and I realized I was not cut out for something that I didn't have an inherent interest in, which I never did. I just wanted to make some good money.
You were just there for the money.
I was just there for the money.
What did they pay in the 90s in investment banking in New York?
So this was 1994. I had a $60,000 base salary.
In 1994?
Yes.
Lehman Brothers paid that in 2008.
DLJ was a very lucrative investment bank. It was also a sweatshop. Sorry, I'm not supposed to name names, but everyone knew that. That was the culture of investment banking.
Yes.
And that was the other thing, is I'd gotten this job to make lots of money because I wanted to spend time in New York City. But in reality, I was sleeping under my desk at the office, and I had no downtime, none whatsoever. I was eating dinner every night at the office. I was frequently in the office until midnight, and yes, I did sleep under my desk, looking down at the lights of the Brooklyn Bridge on several occasions. Still couldn't do financial modeling, but I tried. I really tried.
That's great, the story. So what kind of deal, were you set to a specific class? Like as in, did you study consumer products? What kind of deals were you working on? Was there a generalist?
The deal that I remember the most was for a company, an insurance company called Reliance.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
But it was all so intangible to me, it was just a fog of confusion for me.
So I think one of the fogs of confusion might be attributed to the busyness and the sweatshop mentality, which is not a great name to label it. However, do you want to talk about the email now, or do you want to talk about a little bit of something else before that?
No, I would love to.
So Loring shared that when she was an analyst, she received this email, and this was to your whole analyst class, correct?
Yeah, so I had started working there the summer of 93, and by the spring of 94, I knew had made a big error, but I still was trying to make it because of the nice salary. And then I think it was a Friday night, and an email popped up in my inbox, as well as all my fellow analysts, and it was from our administrative managing director, so who is in charge of getting analysts put on different deals. And the title of that email was Busy and Busy Defined. And keep in mind, this is 1994. Email's just starting to be used, and it's just the power it has, or the damage it can do, is just not really, people don't really get how dangerous it can be. So Hillary, I don't know if you want to read the email I received. Or...
Sure, yes, I'll read it. And the subject is too busy and busy defined. And too busy is in quotes, and busy is in quotes. And the entire email is all capital letters. So maybe that was just unsure how to write an email or intentional, but it's at 8:32 p.m. I'm uncertain what day of the week this is. It's a Friday, you said.
I believe it was a Friday.
So Friday at 8:32 p.m. And it says, "It has come to my attention, largely because of my inability to staff deals, that everyone claims to be, quote, too busy. However, everyone has his or her own definition of, quotes, too busy, which can cause inequities in assignments. The one true definition of too busy is being physically unable and having no more time to do more work, not to take on one more deal. Let's define busy. You are busy if you are working each weekday at least 16 hours and at least 16 hours on the weekend. These are working hours, not traveling, gabbing, or eating time. If these are not your hours at the office, you have the capacity to take on more work. Bed checks, beepers, sign-in sheets, etc. are not part of our culture. Fairness and equitable treatment are part of our fabric. And if someone is not pulling as hard on their or as hard as our hardest worker, then they are, pardon the expression, freeloading. Since none of you are held accountable for revenues, the issue comes down to fairness of the distribution of work." How did that make you feel?
So that actually was a super duper clarifying email for me, because I realized, this is just not me. I'm not going to work these hours, but I'm also not going to beat myself up about it. So Monday morning, I knocked on the managing director's door, and I said, I keep wanting to use his name, but I'm not going to. I said to so-and-so, I got your email on Friday, and I thought about it over the weekend, and he almost cut me off.
Wait, and you didn't work all weekend, I hope.
I'm sure I did. But it was almost as if he cut me off. I said, I think this email helped me realize that I'm not cut out for investment banking. But what was so interesting is he immediately said, "Oh, I completely understand, Loring. You will keep your salary, you will be paid a bonus, you will keep your office and your assistant while you look for another job or profession." And I was totally taken aback. Whoa.
So he's trying to cover his butt because he realized what he sent was
yes,
horrendous.
Well, but I didn't go in with that attitude. I was just like, I'm not cut out for this. But he had obviously caught a lot of HELL all weekend, and he was running scared. So that was. But I still have that email framed in my office today. But no regrets. I'm glad I tried investment banking. It was important to fail because it made me realize I have to do something that I intrinsically have a passion for.
Well, I wouldn't say you failed. You were totally determined to get a job there. You went there. You conquered the job. You just were not necessarily prepared adequately. I mean, you could have probably learned how to do a financial model, but if you had never done it, it doesn't seem like the infrastructure was in place to help you learn how to do it.
It was not.
So you never know. Maybe, you're kind of doing investment banking with finance, figuring out houses all the time.
Well, I was going to say, I love real estate math. It's totally tangible to me. I love crunching numbers when I'm preparing an opinion of value, but that is so different and less esoteric, at least in my mind, versus financial modeling for investment banking deals.
So you have this epiphany, this email kind of, it's not even, maybe it's not even that harsh, right? It's more of just like you should be working your life away at the office at least 16 hours a day. And you then see this and you're kind of like, I'm going to not do this anymore. And then what did you decide next?
So
you didn't just go straight into real estate.
I did not. I still wanted to be in New York. I had a huge love affair with New York. I tried to get a job in
what do you love about New York? Tell us everything.
Just the grit. Everybody's out there trying to make a go of it. Yeah. And you're constantly interacting with people from all worlds. And of course there's all kinds of glamour, but I love just walking down by the Holland Tunnel. I take walks in which it includes walking by the Holland Tunnel and through, Penn Station. I love humanity, seeing humanity in all of its forms. And there's no place like New York to give you that range of humanity.
Do you see any cows when you're walking through?
No cows. No cows.
A little different than Somerset, Virginia.
Yeah. But so I quit. I tried to get a job in what was considered the sexier side of finance, which was sales and trading. I was making the same mistake again. So then my headhunter suggested a job in advertising. And it was for the Neutrogena account. And I thought, well, I'll give that a shot. And it happened to be at the same ad agency that also represented all of Polo Ralph Lauren's business. And I eventually, within a year, ended up on the Polo Ralph Lauren account. And I loved my work. I loved getting to work. I didn't mind staying late. It was in fashion, very young people can reach pretty senior levels. So within 2 years, after 2 years, I was meeting with Ralph Lauren on a daily basis.
Really quickly, before you go down that road, how long did you keep getting paid by DLJ Investment Bank, TBJ? What is it?
DLJ.
DLJ, yeah. How long were you being paid before someone realized that you were still being paid?
I was paid for 6 months before this managing director reached out to me, because I wasn't coming into the office, even though my desk was still there. And he said, Loring, how are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm great. I've actually got a job. I'm all set. And so he's like, is it okay if we stop paying you? I said, yes, it's okay. And meanwhile, he'd also given me a bonus at the end of the year. So it was quite a nice free ride I got.
Well, and then, so what was the pay cut when you go from investment banking to advertising?
Great point. So the base salary was $60K at DLJ, but there was a promise of double or 3 times that in bonuses. And my starting salary in advertising was $30,000. No promise of any kind of a bonus.
But the work was way more rewarding to you.
Yeah, so, it's generally true in New York. The higher the glamour quotient, the lower the pay. The higher the glamour, the lower the pay. That's just kind of how it is. And fashion is like ground zero for people not being paid very well, but they get lots of glamorous meals and glamorous clothing and
glamorous access.
Yes.
All right. So you're back here. You've been working on the Ralph Lauren account for 2 years, and now are you working for Ralph Lauren, the company at all, or are you just working at that ad agency?
I never worked for Polo Ralph Lauren. I always worked for his agency called Carlson and Partners. My boss worked with him from the very first day he started to do advertising. And they remained partners until she died of cancer about 15 years ago. My company, my agency, I don't know if you remember all those fabulous campaigns for Ralph Lauren in the 80s, late 80s, with it looked like they'd gone to Russia or England and, polo matches. Anyway, it was very much lifestyle.
Everything's beautiful. Their old ads, I haven't seen many of their new ads, but everything was beautiful and glorious.
Yeah, very atmospheric.
Yeah. Awesome. So 2 years you're working that. You're going to daily meetings with Ralph Lauren. What is that like? What was he like? And what was the culture like? So many questions.
Yeah, so we would meet with Ralph 2 or 3 nights a week to get advertising campaigns approved. And there were probably anywhere from 8 to 15 people in the room. It was a combination of people from the ad agency, art directors, creative directors, and then sort of Ralph's loyal team of undefined people who he trusted. And yeah, it was probably a year later, I decided to do something, and that is I have a birthmark on my face, and I decided to stop wearing makeup, to stop covering it up. And the very first advertising meeting I had with Ralph, and believe me, he never paid me any attention, but I walked in the room and I sat down, and before the meeting started, he said, "What happened?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What's that on your face?" And I remembered that I wasn't wearing makeup. And I said, "Oh, that's a birthmark." And he said, and he got up out of his chair and he came over and he took my jaw in his hands and said, "No, that's a look." So here's my birthmark. But it was an amazing affirmation of just how visual Ralph Lauren is. You know, there's 15 people in the room and I don't wear makeup on this, and he notices it immediately.
Yeah.
It was intense.
I mean, that just goes to show his eye, but you're beautiful, so he probably noticed it right away. It was like, or maybe he thought someone hurt you and was ready to like bring out the guards for you.
I don't know, but it was intense for me. It was cool.
It was a look, and there you were.
And I don't need any more makeup on my birthmark.
You got validation from Ralph Lauren that you are a look.
Okay.
That everyone should follow the look.
Yes.
People put stuff on, a lot of eyeshadow on their eyes and cover their eyes, but it's definitely a cool look.
Yeah.
You own it well.
Thank you.
Okay, so how long did you work for Ralph Lauren?
So I worked for Ralph Lauren for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's Lauren, not Lauren.
I know. Sorry, I failed French, but that's not even his real name. It's Ralph
Lifshitz.
Yes, yeah. There we go. Lifshitz. I can't even say that one right either. I failed phonics. It was not my best subject. So you worked 7 years, and then so you're like in your late 20s.
Yes, I think I was 27, 28, and as glamorous and fun as the work was, it sort of felt repetitive. It was basically twice a year, the fashion industry is, at least this is how I perceived it.
Yeah.
Creates new looks, creates new designs to convince people that they need to go out and buy a whole new set of clothing. And it was, for me, it was going to glamorous photo shoots and, having these models dress up and do these pretty ads, but it was just the cycle was, how do we get women to keep buying more clothing? We changed the style. And it just became a little repetitive for me, and I started thinking that I might want to get back to Charlottesville. And between 1993 and 2001, Charlottesville evolved a lot. It was a fairly sleepy college town when I left, but since then, the downtown mall had come to life. Mm-hmm. There were just finally some good restaurants, much more of a music culture. Dave Matthews was starting to take off. It was a really exciting time in Charlottesville.
People might know who he is.
Sorry?
I said maybe some people know who Dave Matthews is.
Sorry, Dave Matthews is a rock star who is originally from Charlottesville.
Yeah, but I was just saying, pretty famous.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. So it transformed, and you were kind of just, I would say finance gets repetitive too, right? So the glamorous jobs of sales and trading was something that I did when I first got out of school, and I'm kind of like, to say a monkey can do it is not nice, but at the end of the day, it ends up being something that is repetitive, where it's kind of the same thing, the same transactions, the same, maybe there's a market movement, or maybe there's something exciting that happens, like a company goes bankrupt or someone is getting bought, and then that changes the share price. But overall, the motions and mechanics are the same, and I could see how selling high-end fashion to people is kind of the same. It's probably on a cycle. After 7 years, you probably saw some cyclicality to it.
Yes, I did see some cyclicality.
So Charlottesville changed, and you had open eyes, and you decided to come here.
But again, I said, I got to make money. What am I going to do? So the last 6 months that I was still working for Ralph Lauren's ad agency, I went ahead and got my real estate license.
Why real estate? What made you be excited about that?
I'm not sure I remember, except I've always liked houses.
And you needed to make money.
And I needed to make money, and that can be very lucrative. And so my last 6 months in New York, I was actually flying down to Charlottesville once a week, which seems crazy, to take in-person real estate classes. And then I think they were on a Thursday night, and then I would spend the next 3 days at home. And my ad agency, my boss, was incredibly supportive, which kind of surprises me in retrospect. But anyway, I got my license and gave my notice and moved back here. It was 9 months before 9/11. So it was a great time in New York, but I was ready to slow down a little bit.
So you moved back 9 months before 9/11 happened, so you fortunately were not in the city when 9/11 happened.
That's right.
Okay, well that's good.
Yep.
And so that was like the most expensive real estate class probably anyone's ever taken.
Yes, it's crazy.
I guess air flights though were a lot more casual back then than they are now.
I think sometimes I would take what was called the Trump shuttle from LaGuardia to DC, and then my father would pick me up in DC, and that was like
the Trump shuttle.
It was called the Trump shuttle, and it ran on the hour from between DC and New York, and it was owned by Trump. And I think that was like under $100, and you could just basically walk up and get on. You didn't have to pre-buy tickets. But even tickets to Charlottesville were under $200 back then, and it was direct. It was on a prop plane.
And so there was a flight. Was it an airline? It wasn't the Trump airline. It was.
I think it was called Piedmont, but I'm not 100% certain.
Well, it's Piedmont Airways operated. Yes. American Airlines operated by Piedmont.
There we go.
Interesting. So they're still here.
Yep.
Going strong. Not sponsored by Piedmont Airlines, but here at Scattered Adventures and the Juicy Details podcast, we love some airline tickets.
That's right.
Yes, we're going on vacation, right? Okay, so then you came back and you started taking your real estate classes, and did you start working for another firm or just dive into joining your own?
So I worked for a company called Stevens & Company, which is still very much going strong today. It was the market in Charlottesville, the real estate market in Charlottesville in the early 2000s was going like this. It was going way up, much like it is today. And much like today, there was not enough inventory. You had, and finding out about listings was like a blood sport. Information was power, and I realized at a small boutique firm like Stevens & Company, I wasn't hooked into a pipeline of hearing about listings before they came on the market. So I wasn't giving my clients a lot of added value because, especially back then, brokers were selling a lot of properties themselves. They were never exposed. They just found a buyer themselves privately. So I moved to McLean Faulkner, which was a bigger firm, and the market continued to be strong, but I had access to a lot more what we call pocket listings today. I was learning about listings before they came on the market. And so I really got a toehold at McLean Faulkner. And then in 2008, just on the eve of the Great Recession, I went out on my own, which would seem to have been terrible timing, but actually in Charlotte, whereas a lot of markets went down, I feel like Charlottesville went from this to this, and I really haven't been in a real estate market in Charlottesville in which it's gone like this. Kind of worst case, except in the upper market, the values can flatline here. So I went out on my own in 2008. I had one assistant and myself, and I think a year later, my first agent was Karen Ball, a fabulous local agent. And
she sold my first house in Charlottesville. Thanks, Karen. Yeah.
There we go. She was Rookie of the Year when it was just the two of us. And from there, I partnered with Lindsay Melby and Christine Lyle, who has moved away. But anyway, the three of us joined forces in 2012. I sold my little shop front on Water Street and bought the office on the corner of Park and High Street, and we've grown since then. But we always want to stay boutique scale, so we capped the agent count at 30, no more than 30, and that's worked well. We're not looking to franchise out, or we want to stay local.
And so right now, Loring's real estate company, just for numbers, you guys sold between 400 to 500 million last year worth of homes of inventory, and
we do that. That's what we do every year. In 2022, we sold almost 480 million, but last year, as inventories have continued to go down, I think we sold more like 430. So strong.
So inventory availability doesn't just affect us people trying to buy; it affects people that this is their livelihood, buying and selling
Yes,
houses.
this is a arguably a scary market, certainly a sobering market for real estate agents, because, if I, for example, have 20 really good buyers, and for my 20 really good buyers, there's going to be I might have four buyers for the same property. So if I've got 4 buyers for when one listing comes on the market that's a good listing, that means there's another 40 or 25 from other agents. So we're all fighting in a feeding frenzy, or it's a blood sport to try and get our buyers these properties today. It's tough.
So how do you go and find listings or properties for people?
How do I find them?
Like, for instance, if someone, Loring's very active on Instagram, Loring Woodruff. You can find her and follow her and see what she does. And she's getting all these really great listings and fabulous homes and farms and just
Thank you.
great things out there. So would you attribute that to your network? Would you attribute that to growing up in Orange County?
Honestly, I got my toehold in the very beginning by just relentlessly following up with people. Maybe I would meet somebody at a cocktail party and say, you're thinking about buying a house? Do you mind if I just email you with potential properties? You don't even have to respond. But if something catches your eye, let me know and I'll get you in. And that built my business. I think my first year in real estate, I sold 13 houses and I made $60K. But those people who worked with me had good experiences, so then they referred. So my referral network grew, and as I sort of aged into the business or aged up, the transaction size aged up. So it's a referral business, very much so. But certainly to market a property effectively, you're doing advertising and direct mail. But as far as getting listings, it's really kind of based on your track record.
So what's your hit on direct mail these days? Do you know?
I don't know.
Does it work, or is direct mail now considered also like an email?
So I actually think direct mail 10 years ago, pre-pandemic or even earlier, was a total waste. But now that we get so much email marketing and social media, it's almost become interesting again. If it's a nice, professionally designed, high quality direct mail piece, I think people actually look at it. So I'm a believer in it now.
I mean, I would agree as just someone who's a layperson that gets emails versus I like to look at tangible objects I can hold. It makes a big difference and you can see things. I think the problem with some of the houses you're selling is that they're moving so quickly that by the time the direct mail comes, it's already been gone. That's true. Unless you're preparing it earlier. So what's kind of been the hardest lesson starting your own business that you've learned?
The hardest lessons. I feel like I've been very lucky. My timing and when I got into the business was fortunate, and also I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with really, really talented fellow agents. And I feel like my team at Loring Woodruff we are extremely collaborative, and I think collaboration in this business is really, really empowering, and it only helps your clients. So I'm trying to think of struggles. I'm sure I've had struggles, but it's been pretty fun. Well, that's good. That's supposed to be. Maybe your only struggle was just not wanting to work 16-hour days. Not wanting to work 16-hour days at something I didn't even understand I was doing. Exactly. Yes. Because you can be a farmer and working 16-hour days easily, and you can be loving your job in real estate, and I'm sure you've put in 16, 20-hour days doing that. Yep. And I certainly would, in the advertising days, if my day started at 9, it frequently ended at 9 p.m. because our meetings with Ralph would go very late, but I loved every minute of it. So there you go. So that was a 12-hour day easily. Yeah. And then you probably go out after that. Oh, yeah. Because that's what you do in New York. That's what you do in your 20s. Yes, exactly. I guess in Charlottesville, too, you can do that. Uh-huh. That's awesome. So now it's been how many years? 2012, so 13 years? 13 years. Well, so I went out on my own in 2008. Okay. So it's been more than 15 years since I started my own company. That's amazing. Yeah. And now you're the second largest in this part of Virginia. We are, and we handle the vast majority of the million-plus properties. So we're the number one in that realm, but we don't handle a lot a ton of new construction. We handle custom new construction and more specialized, but we don't handle huge, dare I say, cookie cutter new construction, just, dozens and dozens and dozens of townhomes, and we tend to do a little higher end custom product.
So if you want anything in this Central Virginia market that is unique, bespoke, historic, well done,
Distinctive,
charismatic, high fashion, you go to Loring.
But that can be an amazing 2-bedroom cottage on Cameron Lane, or a totally custom condominium at White Gables. I mean, it really ranges, but yeah, we definitely, if you had to pin us down, new construction versus existing, we err on the existing properties.
And so talk to us about your daughters, like with your as a woman who went through all of these things of investment banking, and you definitely were assertive, and you went and got it, and you got this dream job, and then you realized quickly it was definitely not your dream job, and then you did get your dream job, and now you've created your dream job. What's your advice to your girls?
My advice to my girls is listen to your passion, not to your pocketbook. The money will come. It's really, if I had tried to continue in finance, I would have just been so miserable. But, when I started at the advertising job, my salary was $30K. And when I left 7 years later, it was closer to $150, which was plenty of money for being in your 20s and you're not in finance. So for me, that was great money, and I love my job. So that would be my advice. Work hard. Don't take anything for granted, but pursue your passion.
There you go.
Pursue what you're naturally passionate about.
Well, that's great advice. I think that pertains to everybody that's listening to, not just your girls, but I think that I know they're special to you, so I figured that was a good way to frame it, and that was great advice. And let's talk, we're going to pivot quickly just because this episode is sponsored by Scouted Adventures.
Yes.
Your travel, if you guys need to go anywhere, we can help you out.
Yes.
But let's talk about trips that you've been on that you loved and what's on your bucket list.
Let's see, what trips I've loved, I hate to say the obvious, but I love Italy. I love the Amalfi Coast was amazing. Rome is my favorite city in the world. Sorry, New York, I love New York, but Rome is otherworldly. I went to Thailand, and I was actually, oddly, I was only in Bangkok, but again, for the same reasons I love that gritty, all humanity thing about New York. I loved walking around Bangkok. So that was really a big memory. And I guess one other trip that I really enjoyed was a friend got married in Argentina, in the Patagonia of Argentina, and it was quite the 5-day wedding celebration. And I was hiking during the day and eating dinner at 10 p.m. and having lots of fun at night, and then eating these amazing steak meals. I'll never forget the first night I was in the Patagonia. We went to sort of a working class steakhouse, but it had the best meat in town. And the chef comes over, first of all, to each person and individually talks to them about how they want their meat cooked and what cut. And you look on the menu, and a half portion steak is 20 ounces. A full portion is 40 ounces.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that is a serious meat-loving culture.
And did people eat the whole 20 or 40 ounces?
Oh yeah, I think people who are working on the Pampas, I think they're working very hard, and they can take down. Not only are they taking down a 40-ounce steak, but they're starting with sweetbreads. Sweetbreads there are like, hush puppies here. Yeah, so they have sweetbreads to start, and then they have a 40-ounce steak with a load of French fries, and they of course each polish off a bottle of Malbec.
And they're in great shape.
And they're in great shape.
We've got to change your diet, it seems, and get outside more and work harder.
Goodness.
And then what's on your bucket list, though? So those are all wonderful trips. I guess what's left?
Japan, or so all over Asia, but Japan in particular, I'd say. Yeah,
Japan's on my bucket list. I haven't been there yet, but I'd love to ski and check it out.
Yeah.
And see all the culture and the food. I love sushi. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they have a lot of cheese over there.
I don't think they have a lot of cheese. No.
Because I know you like cheese.
I do love cheese. I do.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so thank you for joining us today. I mean, this has been really fun getting to know your career path and kind of the whole story. I mean, I feel like we've missed out on a lot of these. There's probably more details we could dig into, but overall, from farm life and raising cattle and corn to the whole gamut of investment banking, fashion, and starting Loring Woodruff.
Well, this was really fun. It was fun talking all about myself. I hope it was somewhat interesting to everyone.
It definitely was, and the great advice of listen to your passion, not your pocketbook, is really meaningful because you started your 20s as listening to your
Pocketbook.
Pocketbook, and so that's something we can all take away. I mean, I think that's a valuable and applicable lesson. I listened to my pocketbook too, and I went into fashion. I didn't go into fashion. I went into finance too. The same thing, the same story, and I sat there and was like, every day, what am I doing? And I wanted to be doing different things. And when you find something that you're passionate about, when I started Lumi, my days were 20 hours. I didn't think twice. I was there every day. I'd sleep at the office. I would sleep in, take 5-minute power naps and go back at it because it was just brought me a lot of energy. So that's awesome. Well, thank you. And thanks everyone for joining the Juicy Details. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. I love you, mean it, from our showroom to you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, Hillary.
Thanks, Lori.